there are two types of interactions that we have to calculate in MD simulations. One is the non-bonded part, which involve van der Waals forces and electrostatic forces, and the other is the bonded part. Now, if you look at the bonded terms, for example, if you look at harmonic potential for a bond, it looks something like this. In principle, you can plot this potential as a function of R in a table. So, you can plot VR versus R in a table based on this equation, and you can simply calculate the distance between two particles and look up the potential from a table. So, all the bonded potentials can be tabulated in a table, and therefore, they can be calculated quite quickly. But you cannot do this for a non-bonded interaction, and therefore, for every simulation integration time step, you have to calculate all non-bonded interactions in a system. Let's say you have a simulation box of 10 nanometer by 10 nanometer and it contains n particles. So, for every time step, you have to calculate n into n minus 1 interactions, and this is expensive. The trick that we use to make this a bit faster is the use of non-bonded cutoffs. If you plot the van der Waals potential versus distance, you will see that the value of the potential after a value of, let's say, 2.5 sigma is almost 1% of the initial value. So, the potential drops off very significantly after 2.5 sigma, which would be about, let's say, 9 angstroms, depending on the type of particle, and after that the value of the potential is really 0. So, the easiest way we can accelerate the simulation is to say, okay, when the particles are more than 9 angstrom apart, the interaction between them is almost 0 based on this plot. Therefore, we will just set it to 0. So, if I call this distance RC representing cutoff, I can say that my simulation potential is equal to the Lennard-Jones potential when R is less than RC, less than the cutoff, and is equal to 0 at R greater than the cutoff. Right? Now, if I draw this plot a bit more carefully, so my modified potential will look something like this. So, this is the actual potential, and the modified potential will look exactly the same as the original potential up to a distance of RC, and beyond RC it will suddenly switch to 0. So, this is my modified potential V prime R, and the black line is the original Lennard-Jones potential. The problem with implementing such a straight cutoff is at this point the potential becomes discontinuous. So, we have to find a better way of doing this. One way of doing this is the following. So, let me draw these curves again. So, this is the actual Lennard-Jones potential, and what I can do now is I can shift the curve up. So, the entire curve is shifted up by a certain value, so that the modified potential looks something like this, and it becomes 0 at this cutoff. So, in that case, mathematically the modified potential will look like this. So, the original Lennard-Jones potential minus some value Vc. So, this is equal to Vc when R is less than equal to the cutoff and is equal to 0 when R is greater than equal to the cutoff, greater than the cutoff. This is called a shifted Lennard-Jones potential. Of course, it is an approximation, but now my potential becomes 0 at this distance, which means I only have to calculate interactions within 9 or 10 angstroms instead of my entire system. However, here too the force becomes discontinuous. So, there is a third strategy that we can use. And this is called a switching function. So, let me plot this switching function graphically first. This is the original Lennard-Jones potential, and my modified potential will look exactly like this original potential up to, let's say, this value, and we'll call this R lower, and after lower it will be smoothly switched off to 0 over this distance, and we can call this value as R upper. This sort of function is called a switched van der Waals potential. If you work out the mathematics of it, it is clear that both the original potential and the modified potential are the same at R less than RL, R lower. And the way this is implemented is by multiplying the original potential by what is called a switching function. So, before you reach the lower cutoff, your original potential and the modified potential and original potential are the same, which means the value of SR should be equal to 1. So, the switching function will be equal to 1.0 before the first cutoff. It is also clear that the switching function will be equal to 0 after the upper cutoff. So, when the switching function is 0, the modified potential becomes 0. So, I can also write equals 0 for R greater than the upper cutoff, and between these two cutoffs it can be smoothly switched to 0. So, the form of the function can look something like this: the upper cutoff minus the distance between the two particles divided by the upper cutoff minus the lower cutoff distance. So, you can see when Rij is equal to Ru, this switching function will of course become 0. When Rij is equal to Rl, the switching function will be 1, and between these two values it will smoothly switch from 1 to 0. So, these are the three different types of non-bonded cutoffs that are used. The first was a direct cutoff where you switch off the potential at a certain value. The second was a shifted potential where you shift the potential a bit higher so that the potential reaches 0 a bit earlier. And the third case is a switching potential where you switch the potential off to 0 between two different cutoffs. So, these are the three different types of van der Waals cutoffs that are used to accelerate MD simulations. So, now we have worked out a scheme where we decide that at each time step we will calculate interactions of this particle only with all other particles within a certain cutoff radius. But in order to do this, at every time step we have to calculate the distances of this particle with all the other particles to figure out which particles lie within this cutoff distance. This may not be necessary. One can make the assumption, since we will end up simulating mostly liquids, that during a single time step of 10 to the power of minus 15 seconds, 1 or 2 femtoseconds, it is very unlikely that this particle will cross this boundary, or this particle will come inside the cutoff radius of my central particle. What this means is, we are assuming that the neighbors of a certain particle do not change at every time step. So, what we can do is we can maintain what is called a neighbor list. So, if this particle is number 1 and this is 2, 3, 4, so we maintain a list saying that the neighbors of particle number 1 are 2, 3 and 4. And at the next time step, we will not calculate the distances of this particle from all other particles, but claim that during this time step, the number of neighbors and their identities have not changed, and I will calculate non-bonded interactions between particle 1 and particles 2, 3, 4. But of course, one cannot keep doing this indefinitely, because eventually at some point particle 4 will leave and a new particle, let's say particle 5, will come in. So what you can do is you can say, I'm going to update my neighbor list every 10 steps or every 20 simulation steps. Of course, this is an approximation, but it results in a great increase of efficiency in the simulations. So what you're doing is you're maintaining a neighbor list for every atom at each time step, and you're updating it every 10 steps. And before those 10 steps are reached, the number and identity of the neighbors don't change. So you calculate interactions between the same set of particles. The advantage being that after every time step, you don't have to calculate distances between the central part of the central particle from all other particles, but only for particles within the cutoff or within the neighbor list to calculate the van der Waals potential.